Now, the news story of the British businessman, now apparently conman, James McCormick, and his magical bomb detector has made quite a splash here in China. McCormick was found guilty on 3 counts of fraud for the sale of fake bomb detector devices worth over $85 million. He admitted to a British court that he knew the devices did not work. Actually, his ADE 651 device was simply modelled on a novelty golf ball finder. However, McCormick claimed it could detect explosives, narcotics, ivory, cash, even human beings being trafficked, all at long ranges or deep underground. In fact, the devices were found to be not much more than empty plastic boxes with various useless attachments, and the results of successfully detecting contraband were no better than random chance. Even so, McCormick managed to sell thousands of the fake detectors at up to $40,000 each. Iraq bought 6,000 devices between 2008 and 2010 at a cost in excess of $38 million to be used at checkpoints within the country. And why that interest here in China? Because here a number of the devices were bought by the authorities at the same astronomical prices, some for use in security at the Beijing Olympics. Well, to find out what Chinese net users have to say about this lucrative scam and the China angle, let's cross over now to the newsroom and our researcher, Julia Liu. So Julia, what's the reaction been to this incredible scam from net users here in China?
Well, first of all, many net users here actually seem quite amazed at the popularity of the device, especially that it was sold to as many as 20 countries. And I have to say, some have a sneaking admiration for Mr. McCormick. And this poster, Xi Shan Yiyun, says on Weibo.com. As a matter of fact, I think this McCormick is pretty smart. He simply modifies a golf ball finder, which costs $20, into a credible-looking device which sounds pretty high-tech that can be sold for as much as $40,000. Well, not that many people have this level of creativity. But of course, most Chinese net users' attention is focused on the purchase of quite a few of these devices for use at the Beijing Olympic Games back in 2008. And this poster called Stephen9527 says on Weibo.com. The devices were used for security work during the Beijing Olympics. It's just pure luck that no incidents occurred at that time. Well, 最有价值的明星 has had this scathing comment on the same website, and he has this to say. This is like a modern version of the old tale of the emperor's new clothes. And hopefully this will serve as a warning to the departments involved to do more research before making such stupid decisions in the future.
Now, Julia, do net users know of any other cases of these fake devices being used in other instances in China apart from the Olympics?
Well, yes, and in fact it seems that the devices were actually quite widely used here in China. And not only was that, but you will guess from the media reports that mentioned them, that these devices were actually quite successful. If you search for mole detector, well, that's the name the device is known by in China, on the biggest search engine in China, Baidu.com. Well, there are literally hundreds of news reports that mention these detectors. And incredibly, most of them are full of praise for how effectively it works. And here are just a few examples I've found. It allegedly helped Qingdao police detect 50,000 illegal fireworks. And it helped the Fuzhou police identify 6 drug addicts in a bar. And Hunan police used it to find 12 tons of explosives in a tunnel in the mountains. And Chongqing police arrested 6 people who were carrying methamphetamines. And all apparently with the help of this so-called detection device. And now these glowing reports are being dug up by net users who understandably find the whole thing hilarious. And Zhongshan Fengyu says on QQ.com, even though it's kind of forgivable that the governments were cheated by the fraud in the first place, it is just ridiculous to see them still fooling themselves later on. What happened to the principle that news should be based on facts? How on earth did these news reports get published? And this poster Zhou Zijian on Weibo.com has a simple answer for that with this cynical comment. Well, exaggerating and hiding the facts, along with making up stories, is one of the most important tasks for local governments in China who want to improve their standing with their superiors.
Now, mentioning the authorities, was it not the government that actually purchased these devices in the first place? And $40,000 is no small change of taxpayers' money. How has that gone down online?
Well, actually, there's an interesting poll on QQ.com which asks the posters the question, Do you think the government organs that purchase these devices should be held responsible? To which 98% of almost 90,000 posters who answered say yes. And I think that gives a fair picture of the online attitude to this. And of course, this story has raised the issue of transparency once again, a sore point with many ordinary Chinese taxpayers. And this poster's reaction is fairly typical. The massive size of the budget for security and the lack of transparency about how it was used leaves open a huge window of opportunity for fraud. Over $300 million were budgeted for security during the 2008 Olympics. But up until now, we still don't know how much of that budget was spent, where it was spent, or where the rest of the money went. Well, Long from Wenzhou says this on QQ.com. If you take a closer look at the case, we'll see the countries involved, like Iraq and China, just happen to be those that rank at the very bottom of rankings of government transparency, which of course made it so easy for such items to appear on the purchase list. And there's also plenty of speculation that corruption was involved. Lü Yiju Huamuchang says on Tencent.com. McCormick said that he only got £7.8 million of the £49 million written on the contract, while an official from the Home Office in Iraq is under charge of corruption. Well, that explains why this device was purchased for such a high price in China. And finally, we have this poster on the same website who warns this could well happen again unless things change. We still don't know how much items are out there that are similar to this mole detector. But if you don't put a purchase and evaluation of devices purchased by local governments under a system of effective supervision, there's a strong possibility we'll see similar absurd things happening again.
Okay, thanks for that, Julia. And that was China Take researcher Julia Liu with reaction here in China to the jailing of James McCormick for selling those fake bomb detectors, some of them here in China. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.